Milwaukee helping out today, and he's taken over for Matt, and Matt runs through this process probably a lot, so this is going to be now it's going to be his it's going to be his duty. So he not 100% familiar with the whole process. Matt is, but he's transitioning into it. So what we want to get across with this is, and I'll demo stuff on the laptop eventually here, is everything we do here, you're not going to make a mess of stuff with your system. You're not going to overwrite your databases. You're not going to overwrite your program structure because you're running all this stuff again over and over and over. You'd be surprised how often we get a call in, and the first thing I lean on, if it's not distribution, is I'll rerun the pack. So the pack is what updates everything. A lot of times it'll go smoothly. You won't get any errors, but there's times where even though you don't get an error, it might not have properly installed 100%. So this seminar will help you in running that guy again, and as I mentioned, there's no harm in this. You can do this over and over and over. Nobody wants to, but you can rest assured that nothing will get messed up in an office machine or a mobile, and to be honest, even the master. If you do the master computer right, it'll never overwrite your databases, never. All right, so let's get going here. We're going to talk about how easy it is to install the updates, the difference between a master, an office, and a mobile computer. I'll show you where to look to see if these updates have been applied correctly, and sometimes this will be a false positive. Maybe it hasn't, even though it looks like it has, but these are areas to check just to make sure nothing is obvious that this didn't install. So, checking version numbers, we'll show you the logs, and we'll also go into the folders where stuff is getting updated. If any errors occurred during the update, we'll show you how to rerun a baseline, rerun a pack, and lately we released a map pack in March, and that guy's been installing 90% good. Sometimes he goofs up or the machine doesn't take it well, so we've been getting some map errors, map packs. We'll show you how to fix that guy too. So there's 3 items to an update. Is the baseline part of it. Generally in the fall you get a baseline update. All 3 other quarterly updates are just pack, which is the update of forms from us, and occasionally you get a map pack. Map packs don't get updated too often. Whistler we rely on Whistler, and Whistler does things about once a year. So, but those are the 3 levels that you can easily wipe them out, get them re-downloaded, and get them reinstalled. And then we'll do some questions and answers if we got some time. Or come up to me after the session, we can answer your questions too. All right. So the proper procedure for running TraCS updates and preparing the update in the office. How many are web services? And how many are standalone, like just one office computer? You're not networked or anything. Okay. So even you guys, where those databases are sitting on that machine, you're not going to hurt anything by doing stuff over and over and over. Now you go into some folders and delete, you got some problems, but just running this thing over and over isn't going to hurt you at all. And it's not going to hurt web services and everybody else that's network environment. It won't hurt you either. We're going to check to see if previous updates failed. Where are the folders and where are these files located? We'll show you that. Properly download the update. Did it download the update? We'll show you where these updates get downloaded. And I'll give you we'll look at the files and you can see if, I'll show you what to look for if something's missing and it didn't properly download. All right, so in the office, at a web services agency, if you got a baseline and a pack update, you got to let the staff know. Web services, you're going to need to get the users out of the office, get them logged out of TraCS, and Jeff can kind of relate to this. This isn't as easy as you think.
Yeah, with our department trying to get everyone on the same page is herding cats. So a lot of the errors we get when we do something like this is not everyone's logged out of TraCS. Generally, that just affects that particular machine, so that's kind of nice. So it's kind of isolated, but yeah, if you can corral everybody and make sure they're off of TraCS during the time you're doing this update, that will alleviate, I think, a lot of your problems.
And in a web services environment, do you tell the mobiles to get out as well, or do you turn the IIS server off and not worry about the mobiles? Because either way, you got to get the office guys out too, and now if they don't all get out, you're...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure for us that we kill the IIS server.
So that would shut down all the mobiles. The mobiles would still function. You could still make citations. You can do all that stuff. And then once you get back online, those forms will get loaded into the system for you guys. So that's a good way to go. Then you don't got to worry about all those guys logging out too. Yes. All right. So, and as the second one says, squad cars, they can't stay logged in. So you don't always have to shut down the IIS server to do the update. But if you're not shutting down that IIS server, you got to get these guys out. You don't want to do a baseline or a pack update on the databases when people are logged in and using it. Okay? IIS is turned off. That's the ideal situation. Download the server baseline from the extranet. Using your WAMS ID, log in and download files. You guys, that web services, you got it. You always keep that going, right? So that, when a baseline update comes down, we don't dish that off automatically if you're web services. You got to go get the server version and go grab that guy from our extranet, download that, and you got to run him. Otherwise, you'll hose up the system by running the regular baseline. And we don't turn on automatic updates for you guys for that reason, because we don't want to give you the bad baseline and mess up the agency. So you use your WAMS ID. If your WAMS ID has gone inactive, you give us an email, and we'll get it back active and running for you. All right, so, and as I just alluded to, is you got to give us a call. When you're ready to go, the bigger places, Milwaukee, you guys got a test environment, right? You don't use it too much?
Well,
you do, you're set up for it. But.
We have issues because for some reason we can't get our Active Directory to work with the test environment. So okay. we've been playing with that for a while, and it hasn't worked for us yet. I think that's more on our end with Active Directory than on TraCS end, but.
So a lot of other agencies have test environments. The bigger agencies, Milwaukee, State Patrol, they got a test environment that they launch this update on first, do their own testing, and then they ask us to update the production side.
Yeah, so, we generally wait for them to find the errors, and then we hold off a little bit on the update usually because of the fact that we don't have that test environment. So
yeah, but we do this because, like I said, we don't want to give you the bad baseline. You guys email us, and then we get you loaded up after you've let us know you're ready to go. And you can do that by emailing Badger TraCS or calling the help desk number. Now, the timeline for updates, a baseline and pack versus pack only. I mentioned earlier, the fall update is usually a pack as well as baseline. All the other updates, generally, you're not going to get a baseline. You'll just get the pack or a map. All right. So even if you're only getting the pack, it's kind of the same process here with web services. You got to get everybody out. Squads, depending on how you approach it, squads can't stay logged in. Shut down that IIS server so they can still function. And then get a hold of us for the update. As you can see, there's no baseline, but you still got to get a hold of us so we can trigger the update for you. We got to know when you're ready to go. It's just we've implemented that as a policy for web services, so nothing is, we know you guys are ready. All right. And by all means, ask for help if you need assistance. That's why we're here. But if you get any errors because you went through and did the update, let us know that too. All right. That is our goal, is to make everything go smoothly, and our time is 30 to 60 minutes. 60 is kind of high, even for a baseline and pack, But it just depends on what's going on at that agency, if their network's getting bogged down or if they don't got very good connectivity. It could take a little bit of time, but generally 30 to 60 minutes on a call with us, and we're okay. Okay, in a network installation, you still got to get everybody in the office logged out. We don't want them talking to the databases. In this situation, the mobiles are fine. These guys aren't talking to the network. If they end shift something to the mailbox, it's a flat file. We're not ever updating that mailbox folder, so they can end shift all they want. They can do their normal stuff. They can stay logged in, and then standalone, pretty close to a network. You don't really got to worry about getting the office environment out because it's the only one you got. So you know what you got. And the squad cars can stay logged in at that time too. Okay, so you got a master computer. A master computer acts a little bit different than the rest of the guys. So you emailed us and you said you wanted the update release. We did that. Get them logged out. Shut down your IIS server, and when you get to the master and you load TraCS, it'll come up with a window that looks like this. It'll say updates are available, log in, and we'll get this stuff installed. So you hit OK. The system admin also has to do this. It's not supervisor. You guys know that though, probably. Same thing. Network and standalone. Any master computer is going to give you this OK prompt. It's one extra step that you don't see in the office and the mobiles. All environments, when you're downloading them, you got a couple things to look for. You're going to wait for the prompts in the lower right corner. The first pop-up looks like that. It'll say updates available. You'll be notified when these updates are downloaded and ready to be installed. So that pops up in the lower right. The second pop-up comes up and says these are all down, they're downloaded, they're available to install, restart and install them. If you miss that second notification, I'll show you here. There's an easy way to see the progress of this download. So if you step away from the computer while this is downloading, which happens often, you come back, you miss that second prompt, you don't know where you're at, I'll show you to make sure it's been downloaded, it's done. All right, so after you've hit OK, you've logged into the computer, you've downloaded the updates, the master will now ask you, do you want to perform this, yes or no? And we're going to say yes, that's why we're here. Use your admin credentials. Well, you're not logging in yet, but well, you do log in automatically. Yeah, master, you're logging in. Use your admin credentials. All right, so we're going to start processing the update. This is identical to client computers, mobile computers. When the updates start processing, you guys are familiar with this window. You'll see it's copying a bunch of files. Let this run. Don't interrupt this. Don't shut the machine. This all common stuff. Don't turn anything off. Just let it process. When complete, you'll return to the login screen. At that time, the master computer should have updated everything at the agency in the databases. It hasn't allowed the other computers to update yet, but we'll get to that here in a second. Right there. So once you log in again to TraCS after it's updated, your master computer will give you this. Would you like to allow other client computers to update? You can say yes or no. If you're not ready to say yes, you want to test some stuff, say no. The next time you log in, this prompt will pop up and you'll get this and you can say yes. It'll keep coming up this prompt until you say yes. So you don't have to do it right away. If you're ready, say yes. Yep, all right. So all other environments, from mobiles and office computers, really the only difference here is going to be when you get to this login screen, does anybody know this? Do you log in or do you log out? Or just stay where you're at when you're updated in office or mobile? You can do either or. It's nicer not logging in because you know you can log in and let it download in the background. But if you're there to update, I would advise don't even log in. Just wait for the prompts. This guy's already been authorized from the master to get the updates off our update server. Leave that guy on the login screen and wait for the prompts. Same prompts pop up. Hey, we're downloading. Hang on a second. Hey, here's your second prompt. You're ready to go. And it's telling you, just close out of TraCS and come back in. So now when you come back into TraCS, you'll get this message, yes or no. And yes, that's what we're here to do. So the only step that was missing there from the master was actually having to log in. The mobiles, you don't have to. The office machines, you don't have to. The master computer, you're required to log in. They want to make sure you have a system admin credential before anything.
And I know from like our experience, definitely let your users know that they should do the update when they see those prompts. We have, like to say that our department, our cops basically won't do anything unless you tell them not to do it. So we had a whole bunch of problems with it not doing the update because no one made the announcement saying, hey, when you see this, actually do the update. Although, they seem to be afraid to hit that yes button, so they would keep hitting no, and it took us a while to get all our machines, and I doubt even now all of our machines are even on the 18 pack, so.
Milwaukee has, gosh, you guys got 1,000 machines, and I could probably bring up the list, and there's a slew of them that are out there. And it's like you explained, I'm going to say no, I don't have time for this right now. It's been working for good.
Yeah, it's not even that. Those machines, like for us, we have 2 computer labs at our academy. They get logged into in TraCS very, very rarely. So they don't do updates ever. I think those might even be on older versions of TraCS. So
Yeah.
we've come across
Old baseline,
some
everything.
very old stuff. So make sure those machines that are sitting in, the captain's office that never gets turned on or use TraCS, make sure that someone goes in there and actually launches TraCS and gets that computer to update.
Yep.
The update's just per computer, not user, correct? So it's a global
Yep.
update.
As soon as any user, that's right. It's applied to everybody, right? All right. So start processing the update. We saw that earlier. Updates begin processed, and they look like this. It goes through copying a bunch of files first, and then you see it doing some executables and actually configuring databases if we make changes. All right, so updates are completed. The updates have all processed. You're back to your login screen. You got no pop-ups, nothing's coming up saying, hey, update, or you didn't get any errors when you're updating. Errors do come down during that update process, but this guy, we went good. Login screen is there, we're ready to go. This guy should be installed and properly running. So checking to see if the updates have installed properly on the computer that you were working with in the local directories. And this is across the board, master, office, mobile. C drive, program files, x86 and TraCS. You got a file there, and this is one of the files I want you guys to remember, and because you're going to check this guy, and this is going to be your shortcut into rerunning things. In that program files x86 TraCS folder is a registry key name INI. And then the other path is going to be in the program data structure, and that's in a folder called TraCS Client Update. That folder is where these updates get downloaded to. In that folder, if the updates have processed properly, it should look like that. You should just have a logs folder. If you got any other folders in there with a whole slew of, they're big long numbers is what they are. It's a big it's a folder, but it'll have a 20 character number or something associated with it. You'll see in a second here. Delta scripts for SQL Server environment. You can check your network file share. If you're SQL Server, it would be your network file share, TraCS 10, DB data, SQL scripts. In there should be a Delta script that if it needs to be run, but hopefully now and moving forward, this guy should automatically be running. It's not a bad idea to check this file and just make sure there's nothing in there. We want it to always be nothing. Now, if there is something in there, we might have to run it, and we want to know about that. The example of that Delta script would look like that. It has a date, but you sort by date. It's probably better to do that. But all you're looking for is the delta.sql. There's other ones in there called index total, and there's 4 of them that it generates. That's the only guy we're worried about, is delta. Looks like that. There's your registry key name INI file. If your pack has installed properly and your map is installed properly and your baseline is updated, these will all be at the level you think they should be. This is off, but this is just a bad screenshot of mine. So if I thought I was installing 1903.21 and I see WePack 1903.21, we're good. Now, if nothing is there or your old pack number is there, you got a problem. Something didn't install properly. Let's do it again, and we'll show you that here in a second. Same rules apply with the map as well as baseline. Check the versions. If they're not right or they old, we got to do it again. There's your baseline, your WePack, and your map pack. Okay, so verifying that client update folder, that's what we want to see. That's a good. That's nothing in there but logs. Excuse me. If we see stuff like this, we got a problem. These could be updates that have never fully processed. And you might not know it, but then 3 months later we release a pack and this machine updates and it updates those properly, but these guys just stay there. You'll see, I've had agencies where they got 6 files here dating back 2 years and they just never properly installed. So you got to make sure it only has a logs folder, and if there is anything in there like that, get rid of it. Delete it all. You can even delete that logs folder. I don't care. Just wipe everything out. We'll put stuff back the way it needs to be when we trigger all this again. I think I mentioned earlier, but all this, any machine, any environment, it's local, C drive on everybody. When is a good time to perform this? You're getting errors over and over. Features that worked before now don't. The location tool, that guy's been acting up. He stopped working. You're running distribution. Rerunning distribution hasn't fixed it. I mentioned earlier, I lean on that first, distribution. You guys do too, probably, right?
Yeah. That's usually the first go-to is
Yep.
rerun that distribution.
Yeah. 99% of the time, I'm rerunning the distribution on anybody's stuff. Even if you said, I just ran it, I'll be like, well, let me just do it. Let me see. That's distribution usually, especially on a mobile, that's what tells that mobile what we're doing, how we're end shifting. It's its instructions on how to work. All right, so we're going to clear out the track. Here's a good example. They all got the same date because I fudged this up. But usually they got a 6/5/2019, maybe a 2017 here. There's a whole bunch of different dates. We got a problem here. This guy needs to get wiped out. Some of these haven't fully installed. Even if your last one did, we're going to start fresh. Delete all the folders. Find that reg key name, INI file again. And what we're going to do here is we're going to delete a couple things. Depending on what you want to run or what you want to do, what you don't think is working, you can delete individual stuff. You could delete just the pack, just the map, or both. Now the baseline should function like that, I've been told, but it doesn't. So don't try that guy just yet. That's a little different. It should, according to Jerry, but I've proved her wrong on that. That would be nice. It will be working. It will be nice to have that as well. So we think the pack is the issue here. We're going to delete everything after the equal sign. So So all you want there is TraCS pack equals. If that is the case, this machine, when it talks to our update server, the update server says, you don't got anything on you, I'm going to give you from pack 000, which is our 14-year first pack ever made, all the way up to the end. I'm going to give you everything. So wiping that out isn't a bad thing. If it's been missing packs like you saw with all the folders, it's grabbing them all now. It's going from 0 to the latest level. You can do it with map too. And it should look something like that. Now I probably shouldn't have pulled out that baseline, but you guys already know that don't work. Okay, so when you got that done, close that file. It'll say, do you want to save it? Say yes, save it. Otherwise, those, you guys know, those versions will get back in there. All right, when to run the same distribution again. Mobiles sometimes don't fully run distribution. Other mobiles are working just fine and just this one machine's acting up. Don't waste time creating another distribution, just run this guy again. This is another easy fix. Simply delete one file. And what causes it? Files get corrupted. A database could get corrupted on that mobile. The Office side, I doubt the database got corrupted, but you never know. It could be a Windows issue. And does this work for Office machines? Yeah, all this stuff works whether you're master, your Office, your mobile. They all got to run distributions, at least at first, or down the road to straighten them out. That's backward. All right, running the same distribution again. On a mobile and Office computer, we got to find the distribution log file, and that is located in your C drive, program data, tracks, settings folder. If you don't have a distribution log file, it's never ran one. If it hasn't ran it properly, delete that guy, delete that file. Close out of that window. It's only an XML file, you're not going to hurt anything. And then locate your most recent distribution. Now maybe you don't know this, but if it's already ran a distribution, it knows where that location is for that distribution. Just open and close tracks, it'll run. If it doesn't know where the distribution is, you got to manually go to it, which you probably manually run them, don't you? Is it easier? Distribution?
For this part, like doing this, generally not. It knows.
On a fresh build, though, you have to.
On a fresh build,
Yeah.
you definitely have to run
Yeah.
that distribution. Otherwise,
So like he said, on a build that they're trying to fix, it already knows where this mobile distribution is. It'll do it. On a fresh build, you got to tell it, hey, this is where we're at. And you got to manually go to it and run it, and then it'll make the log file. From there on, it will update another file with the path, so it'll always talk to that distribution. And you'll see there, that's a mobile distribution. If you want to run a mobile distribution again, that's the file you run. It's a batch file. It's the only one that'll do anything in there. But you find that location, you double click on that guy, and that will manually run the distribution again. Office is the same type of procedure. It's called Office distribution.batch. Fresh installs of Office machines tend to play pretty good. They'll look for forms, they'll do a lot of stuff, but you do got to run an Office distribution on that guy too. Otherwise, it's tough to generate document numbers. It can cause some other issues that you might not see at first. So it might seem like it's great, but once you run an Office machine distribution one time, that Office machine should play nice from then on. Mobiles are different. They always need this guy. All right, so an error like this, it's saying C program data tracks, help, documents, insurance, alias, PDF. So it's basically saying I want to drop a PDF file in this location, and the error is telling us that it's denied. You know, you don't have access to that. Well, I always had access to it before. You know, the machine's been running great, and all of a sudden now it can't. In this instance, this is where you'd rerun a baseline. If you have a baseline on the network, you just rerun that guy and hit next, 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 all the way through. And I'll show you on here in a second, but rerunning a baseline won't break anything. Everything is stored in the registry on that computer, so all you got to do is hit next, 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 all the way through, and let it run on its own, and that will readjust these permissions. It doesn't think it has permissions to do it. You run the baseline will say, because there's a screenshot on the baseline that says, and it's always checked by default, allow everyone to have permissions to write to this folder, right? It says something like that.
Yeah.
Allow everyone. Yeah. So it sets permissions at that point.
I say we run baselines over machines. We run baselines over and over again. Yeah, you definitely won't break anything. Usually that'll fix a lot of the problems we have with machines, is just rerunning that baseline if there's some sort of error that crops up. But yeah, definitely it's not going to break anything. You're not going to destroy anything in your database or anything like that. So don't be worried about rerunning that baseline.
Now, a baseline takes, and on a fresh machine, it installs the databases. So don't worry that it's going to go and install databases over the top. It doesn't. It's not going to, the databases it's trying to install all have a date older than the databases you have, guaranteed. They're like 2015. So it's never going to say, oh, I'm going to put this here over you, because that guy's, much more, he's got the date's further out. There's no way it's going to overwrite with a date behind. So, all right, so sometimes this is a baseline. I know that this is a baseline issue. Sometimes this is PAC, and sometimes it's map. You get different errors in here. It might say mapping. It might say, instead of program data tracks help, it might say program data tracks mapping. Well, that's a good clue that we got to do the map again. That's what's causing this issue. This one is that number there after, well, you can kind of figure it out here. It has tracks client update. That's the folder it's looking in. And then there's one of those big long numbers. And it's saying it can't find the input.xml. And I'll show you when we download a pack, it needs that input XML. And sometimes if it doesn't download properly from us, it might not have all the files in there. And the one that gives its instructions to run is this input XML. So if this guy comes up and it says, hey, I don't see this in this file, this guy's never going to update. We got to clear that folder out of there. We got to re-download and then check to see if we got that input XML in there. Most likely you do it. But at that time, it just got interrupted or something. And this screenshot is bad, but I thought it was good because, yeah, it's given an access denied to a library. Again, baseline on this guy is probably where I'd go to first, because baseline will overwrite set permissions to both program files x86 as well as program data. So if it ever gives you an access to path, it's run the baseline. That'll reset all permissions. Don't go into the folders trying to reset permissions. You might get there, but it's easier to just run a baseline. All right. When does this go to? 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Does it? Okay. All right. Any questions right now? I set something up. Anybody got any questions? All right, so what we'll do, and I'll show you a couple other items where to check for. So the reg key I had our version numbers and our pack levels, baseline, everything, but you also have it up here to see what's installed on this. And this might be a good check at first before you perform an update. What levels is this machine at? and then you know what you're downloading. So you can tell under help, about tracks, you got your versions. Here's your baseline. Here's your WePack version. We don't show a map version, but we'll work on that. All right, let's close out of here. All right, so here is your file explorer. We're gonna live in this area here, the C drive. So program data is tracks. And in here is the client update folder. All updates get downloaded here. You can see we don't got anything downloaded. There's no updates to apply. There's also no updates that have failed. Oops. So, as I mentioned, you can delete that guy. There's no harm there. We'll come back here, x86, tracks. And I guess I should have tested that. So there's this file. And you can see it looks similar to what we had there in the presentation. So this is our level. We take this guy out, and he's going to go grab a base pack of 0, and he's going to grab every pack in between all the way up to the latest. Our packs are what's called cumulative. And let's say you had March's pack on there and you're going to get in June's. All you're going to get is the updates from March to June. So if you have a lot of folders in that TraCS client update folder that haven't properly installed, just getting that cumulative update probably isn't enough. That guy's still missing some stuff. So setting this to 0 grabs everything. Cumulative updates take a little less time to install because it only grabs that little bit of change that we made. Grabbing a 0 level here takes a couple minutes, but it's almost like a fresh install at this point because a fresh install has nothing. It's going to grab from 0 to the latest. So it's like resetting this guy back to a fresh install. At least pack level.
Yeah, I'd say this is also, I know I mentioned earlier that we have like a bunch of machines that are on old packs and old baselines. If that baseline's old enough, it won't automatically run an update. So you'll have to go in and do this to force it to do that update.
Yep,
So if you have a machine that, and I don't know how far back.
Yeah, I don't know what the level would be. You know how many skipped. I don't know what it would be the threshold, but
I think the last time I talked to Jerry about this, she said if it was 16 or older, it wouldn't automatically update.
Makes sense. And that's a lot, but that's a lot of out-of-date updates.
Yeah, well,
16.
Right.
So with you guys, I'm hoping you're not missing that many updates. You'll probably grab at the worst 2 or 3 updates because you're running last year's fall update. You're not on this year's. That should work good. The longer you stay out of date, though, the more problems you can have when this update process starts. If that guy's grabbing a year's worth of updates, there's some levels in there that might have needed to just process, and you didn't do it. So you might be making errors on your own by not updating these computers fast enough. So starting at 0, we know we're installing everything. But if you wait too long, as Jeff mentioned, and I said, you could run into some issues at that time. I'm going to kill both. I won't do both of these guys, and then we'll show you. Oops. All right. Gosh, I can't. I gotta duplicate this because it kind of skipped. All right. I already missed the first pop-up, or you guys did, but if you miss the pop-ups or you get back and the second one's come already, you won't see this icon, but if you go here to your system tray and double-click on that TraCS icon, it'll bring up a progress bar, and it'll show you it's still downloading. It's going to take a minute. Because you were starting at 0, we're going to the latest level, it's going to take a minute. The progress bar works for baseline and it works for pack. If you're doing a map update, it's just going to sit there saying preparing to download. Don't worry, it's downloading. We just, for some reason, the status bar doesn't want to sync up with what we're actually doing process-wise. So this guy's downloading, and we download the map too. This network's not the best, but I'm going to move over here quick to show you while that's downloading what this looks like. All right, so there's 2 files, and that's what we triggered for the download. We wanted the pack, we wanted the map. Leaving this window up, if you miss the second prompt, this guy goes from cancel downloads to just close. You know at that point everything's been downloaded and you can actually close out of here. So once this goes, we'll show you. See here, you don't got that index.xml? You don't got that file here yet. And that's really the instructions as to, well, what are we going to update? How are we going to do it? If that file isn't there yet or never gets there, you get that error that we saw earlier in the example. In the other folder that's already been downloaded, as you saw, there was an XML instruction there. I'll go back. Right there. That guy's going to tell this machine, this is what we're updating to get to this pack level. I think this is pack. Yes. Don't mess with this stuff. You can check it like we're doing. There's no harm in any of that. Probably can't open this file, and you can open that, but definitely don't change anything. So you got the close. I missed the prompt in the lower right, but we know we're good when that guy says close. Cancel out of here. Come on. It's checking our update server now, and it's saying, well, we do need updates. It's following up with what we've already downloaded, and it should bring up a prompt saying, do you want to update, yes or no? Eventually. Huh? Oh, it's shoot. Okay, here you go. Thank you, guys. There's, we would have been waiting there for another 5. Thank you. All right, so of course we want to say yes. You'll see this process start up. And it'll start processing through. I'll get this to run through and then. All right, I'm going to run this baseline now, but I'm just going to show you how it's easy to run a baseline again. It's a good idea to keep this on your network or have your IT people know where this baseline is. Whatever baseline you guys are currently, you have a copy of it on the network somewhere. Yeah, because you can go to it, you could build a new machine at any time, or you could run a baseline on an old one.
Yeah, we have it on a network share, on a drive. I think we even have copies on thumb drives just in case.
Which is a good idea. Whatever baseline you're on, have a copy of it. Makes it easier to get stuff installed, make new machines, and go through this process of just making sure permissions are fixed. The baseline isn't the issue. Yeah, we're loading up here. Oh, and here's your distribution log. We'll do that too. forgot. So C drive, program data. Everything's C drive, program data, or program files, and then tracks. That's where we reside. So in here is a settings folder, and there's your distribution log. You delete that guy. Now, I don't know if I brought a distribution to run again, but I'm not on the DOT network, so if I was to open tracks, close tracks, it would think it never ran that distribution, and it would automatically run it again just by deleting that file. All right, so here's this guy. We're going to go next. Like I said, next, all the way through. All these things are stored in the registry. Next. Don't change anything. Just next, all the way. Let this run. This will fix your permission issues in these folders. Here we go. One more next, and finish. And permissions are fixed. It was very fast. It was simple as can be there. So if you have a copy of that baseline, it's huge if you got any issues. These are the three things I probably do the most. I'll redo the distribution first. If I got a permissions error, I'll go to baseline. If I see the pack hasn't processed properly, I'll just go to pack. I won't even run baseline. But I mean, those three things combined are usually what I'm tackling to fix any problem. Is that kind of up your alley?
Yeah, I was just say the first thing we go to is rerun the distribution. That doesn't work, then rerun the baseline.
Yep.
That doesn't work, then we'll check the pack. So,
Yep.
but that's basically the order we check everything in.
So this guy's still copying. I mean, you can look at this. We're copying over GIF files. GIF is a good point. Now, if you don't have everybody out of the office and you rerun this on the master, you'll get an error coming up here saying, oh, hang on a second, someone's using the TraCS logo .gif. That means somebody in the office hasn't closed out of TraCS. It's your first clue that they didn't get out. So then either dump the connections on the file server or track them down and get them to turn it off. Unless well, even then, you got to get everybody out of the office because those guys aren't running to the web server. They're running through the network.
Yeah, they're running straight to the network.
Yeah, so you always got to get everybody in the office, get them out. And we'll let this run here. If you guys got any questions, you just chime in. We're about there. Go ahead.
You said you can see what everybody's running, and can we see what everybody at our trainings is running, what versions are running, to see if there is some straight up there?
Yes.
I say I always contact you guys and say, hey, can you send me a spreadsheet of what machine's on?
So two things here. You can use this for either if you want to know what machines are on what level, get a hold of us, email us, and be like, hey, can I get a running list of all machines on the update server? I'll create a spreadsheet and I'll ship that off to you. And you can just, okay, oh, this guy's not here. Why is this guy so out of date? Okay. That has versions, right?
Yeah. It shows all the versions.
It should. We also use that tool for agencies that are, well, you guys. I mean, you go through equipment like crazy. So you're going to want to dump, they just got 300 new computers. Get them off of the update server. So if you've updated a lot of equipment that is never going to hit the field or you don't even have it, give me an updated list of the update server. I got a bunch of machines to come off, and then you guys ship me back a good list. Or if it's just a few machines, just email, hey, this machine's no longer in use, pull it. And we go through that update server occasionally every 6 months, and we pull all your old stuff. If I haven't seen anybody log into the update server in 6 months, gone. If I get any of you guys on the phone and I'm looking at the update server as to what's going on, and I see a bunch of old machines from 2014, those guys are gone. I don't care. And we don't need them on there. And honestly, if they're going to come back in and log in again, I'll see it come up. I'm not deleting anything permanently. If they come back in and log in, we'll see it. But it's good to keep all that stuff cleaned up, keep your records up to date. It's a good idea.
So the stack of computers I just replaced and way to double check time shifts on them? You don't have to leave those on.
Well, as soon as you log back in, it's not going to prevent you from like doing your day to day. I could remove your master is about the only one I don't want to remove.
Yeah, I say anything else, if it gets out of that update server, the second that computer logs back into TraCS, it'll see it, it'll pull it right back in.
It'll put itself back into the mix. So I usually go about 6 months. If they're any older than that, I remove them. That's doing some rules now. We'll catch it here when it comes into a map pack. It's a little bit different, but we'll see it. At some point, pretty soon here, it's going to start to do your database upgrades. And if you haven't gotten any errors now, when it starts to talk and manipulate those databases, that's where you might catch some errors. More often than not, that's where the errors come rather than at the beginning of the permissions. So when you start running these executables like it's doing, this is actually doing its communications to the databases. It's talking to these databases, it's changing the columns to the way we want them because of the new form. However, whatever the case is, it's actually configuring your databases to work properly with the new pack. And there you can see it's about done here. It'll go into map now. That's a normal update for an Office machine. You get 2 executables. If you have a master, it runs about 5 or 6. Takes a little bit longer. All those are, you can see their shape files, SHP, SBX. That's all Whistler stuff, railroads, water lines. You can tell right now that it's installing the map portion of stuff. And at the end of this also runs some, it runs, I think, 2 executables as well. Everybody's seen a distribution run. I don't got to try to finagle it to run that, do I? We're good there? Kind of the same process. You see the same thing, kind of. You get some status bars, and then you get a check mark or something. I guess I would say don't dive into any other INI files. Just what we're going through here, by all means, delete it, who cares? But if you start looking at other INIs and deleting, we always like to say you guys can't break anything that we can't fix. But I had some guy yesterday, I was like, you can't break any, challenge accepted. So, all right, I'll fix it. It might not be today. I might have to think about it, but we'll fix it. That's what distribution looks like a lot, the red status bars there. All right, so technically, if we're double checking now, did this install properly or not? Did it install fully? We hope so. We got back to the login screen, which is good. We can check your client update folder, and that's good because that's all we have is logs. It's probably generated, yep, and it's gotten bigger, but there isn't much. I've never dived into those, but if you want to, you can take a look at them. Program files. And there's your updated pack level and updated map levels. So to me, at this point, if there's still a problem, I'm not running the pack again. I'm not running the map again. I'm not even running the baseline again. We're going somewhere else to see what could be the issue. And maybe we're turning on a debug mode, but at this point, you guys have spun enough on all this, give us a call.